The Market of Desperation asterisk. The alien girl stood in the middle of the crowded market, her feet bare, her body shaking with hunger. Dust covered her face, and her clothes, once beautiful, were now torn, faded, and almost falling apart. Her name was Zara. She had nothing left. No home. No family. No money. Only the thin cloth around her body and the hunger that burned deep inside her. The market was loud and cruel. Traders shouted prices. Guards shoved the weak aside. Fat merchants laughed from their tall chairs, pointing at the broken ones who begged. Zara walked slowly past the food stalls. The smell of roasted meat made her dizzy. Her stomach growled so loud that nearby children turned to stare. She held out her hands to a vendor. "Please," she whispered, her voice dry like the sand. "One bite. Just one." The vendor, a human with a metal jaw, looked her up and down. "What do you have to trade?" He barked. Zara opened her palms. "Empty," he sneered. "Then get out of here, freak." She didn't leave. Instead, she reached for the tie of her outer cloth. With trembling fingers, she removed it and held it out. It was the last piece of real clothing she had. The vendor paused, then laughed loud. "Ugly. You want food for that rag? Maybe you'd get more if you sold yourself instead." Others nearby laughed too. A guard approached and grabbed her arm. "Move along before I sell you for parts," he growled. Zara pulled away and stumbled back, nearly falling into the dust. She covered herself quickly with what remained of her clothing, tears filling her eyes. She was cold, ashamed, hungry, and alone. A few steps away, a man watched silently. He wasn't dressed like a trader. No shiny armor. No weapons. Just a worn brown coat and tool belt. He was a human, like the others. But something in his eyes was different. He stepped forward and placed himself between Zara and the crowd. "That's enough," he said calmly. The vendor laughed again. "Who are you? Her owner?" The man looked at Zara, then back at the vendor. "She's not property." The guard stepped closer. "Walk away, stranger. This is none of your business." The man didn't move. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out a food pack. He crouched down and gently placed it on the ground in front of Zara. "Eat," he said softly. Zara looked up at him, confused, scared. She didn't trust him. Why? Would she? No human had ever helped her, but the food smelled real, warm, fresh. Her hand shook as she reached for it. The guard laughed again. "You're wasting supplies on trash." The man stood up slowly. "I'd rather waste food than watch someone starve." The guard grunted and walked away. The vendor spat on the ground. "You'll regret that kindness, fool." But the man ignored them. He looked back at Zara. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't speak. She just looked at him with wide, tired eyes. Then whispered, "Zara." He smiled a little. "I'm Tom." For a moment, neither of them said anything. Zara chewed slowly, her eyes still watching him, ready to run, ready to fight. But Tom didn't grab her, didn't demand anything. Just sat nearby, letting her eat. "Where's your family?" he asked quietly. Zara looked down. "Gone," she said. He nodded. He didn't push. "I have a workshop outside the city," Tom said. "It's quiet, safe, if you need a place." Zara stared at him. Was this another trick? Would he trade her like the others? But her body was tired. Her mind was spinning. And somehow, this human didn't feel like the others. She stood up slowly, clutching the food close to her chest. Tom didn't reach for her. He simply turned and began to walk away. After a few steps, he paused and looked back. Zara was still standing there, thinking, fighting her fear, fighting her hunger. Then, she followed him. As they left the market, the sun dipped low behind the buildings. The shadows grew long. But for the first time in many weeks, Zara felt a small flicker of warmth inside her, not from the food, not from the sun, but from a human who didn't ask for anything in return. Shelter with a stranger, Zara walked behind the human called Tom, holding the half-eaten food close to her chest. The market was far behind now. They followed a narrow path that led to the edge of the city. The buildings became smaller, older, and quieter. There were no guards here, no traders, only shadows and silence. Zara didn't trust him. Not fully, but her legs were weak and her belly still ached. If he wanted to hurt her, he could have done it back there. Still, she stayed 5 steps behind him, watching every move. Tom didn't speak much. He walked slowly, careful not to rush her. Every few steps, he looked back to check if she was still there. She was, but her eyes were cold. He noticed. He had seen fear like hers before. Finally, they reached a large metal door hidden under a sand-covered hill. Tom entered a code, and the door opened with a quiet hiss. Inside was a small workshop. Old tools hung on the walls. A broken robot sat in the corner. Wires, batteries, and solar panels were stacked neatly in boxes. It wasn't much, but it was warm. Safe. Zahra didn't step inside at first. She stayed at the door, her body half turned, ready to run. Tom didn't force her. He just walked in and said, "There's clean water here. You can drink and wash. No one else lives here." He placed a clean cloth, a towel, and a water bottle on a chair. Then he walked to the far corner of the room and sat down at his desk, turning on a small light. Zara waited. Watched. Listened. Then slowly, carefully, she stepped inside. She grabbed the water and drank. It tasted like life. She didn't speak much that night. She sat near the wall, close to a heater, wrapping herself in a blanket Tom had left. Tom didn't ask questions. He just worked quietly on a broken solar fan, pretending not to notice her watching him. Hours passed. Zara didn't sleep. She had learned not to. But Tom never moved from his spot. He didn't touch her, didn't even come close. Finally, her body gave in. She closed her eyes. And slept. The next morning, Zara woke to the smell of food. Tom had cooked something simple: boiled roots and dried meat. He placed a plate on the table and stepped away. "You can eat," he said softly. Zara looked at the plate, then at him. Still unsure, still afraid, but her hunger was stronger than her fear. She ate quickly, silently. Tom sipped his own tea nearby. After breakfast, Tom spoke again. "You don't have to stay." Zara paused. "I don't keep people here. I help. If you want to go, I won't stop you." She blinked, confused. Then finally asked, "Why?" He looked at her. "For the same reason I helped you at the market." Silence. She stared at him. No human helps for nothing. Tom smiled. "Sadly, maybe most don't, but I'm not most." That evening, she helped him fix a broken heater. She didn't speak much, but her hands were quick and clever. Tom noticed how fast she learned, how easily she understood machines. "You're good at this," he said. Zara looked away, but there was a small smile hiding on her lips. That night, she slept a little better, and the next night even more. But inside her heart, a storm still lived. She had seen too much, lost too much. And though Tom was kind, she didn't know if she could trust kindness anymore. One day, while fixing a generator, Tom showed her a photo. It was old and faded. A woman, with brown skin and tired eyes, holding a child. "My mother," he said. "She gave food to anyone who was hungry, even when we had little." He looked at Zara. She said, "Kindness doesn't need a reason." Zara held the photo carefully. Then, in a soft voice, she said, "My mother said the same." Tom smiled. That was the first time Zara smiled too. But peace doesn't last forever. Far away, A scanner blinked. A hunter had picked up her trail again, and this time, they were getting close. The night of fire asterisk. The cave was dark. Only the flicker of a small fire lit the stone walls. Zara sat close to Tom. Her back ached. Her legs were sore from walking all day. But her mind wouldn't rest. They will not stop, she said softly. Tom nodded. No, they won't. Zara lowered her eyes. Maybe I should leave. Alone. They want me, not you. Tom looked at her, eyes serious. You're not alone anymore. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the cave. Zara's head jerked up. Tom stood quickly. Another sound closer now. Heavy boots, metal gear. Human voices. They're here, Tom whispered. Zara jumped to her feet. We run. No time, Tom said. They're already inside the canyon. He opened a hidden panel in the cave wall. Behind it were traps he had built long ago, trip wires, spark mines, and a small plasma charge. He handed Zara a small metal ball. If we're caught, press this, but only if there's no other choice. Zara held it tightly. The cave entrance glowed red. Searchlights. 3 human soldiers entered, weapons raised. Tom Cole. One shouted, You're under arrest for harboring a Class C alien fugitive. Tom stepped forward. She's not a fugitive. She's a survivor. They didn't care. The lead soldier aimed his weapon. Stand down or be fired upon. Zara moved in front of Tom, teeth clenched. No, she said. I won't let them hurt you. But Tom pushed her gently behind him. You've done enough. Let me do this. Then, boom! One of the spark mines exploded at the cave wall. The soldiers ducked, but 2 were hit by shock pulses. Their suits short-circuited. Zahr grabbed Tom's hand. Now. They ran deeper into the cave. More explosions behind them. Tom had planned this, but not everything. A 4th soldier appeared at the far end, blocking their escape. He raised his gun. Zara didn't think. She threw the metal ball. It hit the ground and exploded in a bright blue flash. Smoke filled the cave. Screams. Confusion. Tom pulled Zara into a narrow tunnel he had never used before. They crawled until their arms bled. Finally, they reached the surface, a hidden exit on the other side of the mountain. They stumbled out, coughing, bleeding, shaking. Below them, the night sky burned red. Smoke rose from the cave. The soldiers had started a fire. The only place Zara had felt safe was now gone. She fell to her knees. Her shoulders shook. She wasn't crying loudly, but the pain was written all over her face. Tom knelt beside her. I'm sorry, he said. I should have been ready. Zara didn't answer. She just stared at the fire in the distance. After a long silence, she finally said, Every time I find peace, they burn it. Tom looked at her. Then gently said, They can burn places, but not people. Zara looked up. He touched her hard. They didn't burn this. They moved again that night, deeper into the rocky lands where no one lived. Tom knew of an old refugee outpost, forgotten by most. They would head there, but every step Zara took was heavy, not just from the pain in her legs, but from the weight in her chest. When they reached a dry stream bed, they stopped to rest. Tom checked her wounds. She had cuts and bruises. He cleaned them with care. You don't have to protect me, she said quietly. Yes, I do, he replied. Because no one protected you before. Zara looked at him for a long time, then whispered, I've never met a human like you. He smiled. You've only met the wrong ones. She reached out and gently touched his hand, and for the first time, she felt hope. Behind them, the cave continued to burn, but ahead, a new path waited, one they would walk together. Asterisk. She never expected kindness. Asterisk. The sun rose slowly over the dry hills. Tom and Zara sat by a fallen log, sharing a small meal. Just dried roots and water. It wasn't much, but to Zara, it tasted better than anything she had eaten in months, because this time, no one had taken it from her. No one had demanded anything in return. She watched Tom as he worked on a broken compass. He had taken it apart and was trying to reset the core crystal. His hands moved with care, slow, steady, patient. Zara still didn't understand him. Why help her? Why risk everything? She had seen what humans did when they had power, but Tom was not like them. I don't understand, she said finally. Tom looked up. Understand what? You could have left me at the market, like the others. He paused, then set the compass down. I could have, he said softly, but I didn't. Why? Tom looked at the horizon, then at her. Because I saw someone who needed help. That was enough. Zara looked down. In her world, kindness always had a price, but Tom never asked for anything, not even her story. Still, she remembered every day of her pain, and something inside her wanted him to know. So she told him, I was only 13 when they took my village. Tom listened quietly. They said we would be processed, fed, clothed, but it was a lie. They took our names, gave us numbers. She touched the scar on her neck. Mine was 74B, not a person, just a code. Tom's face was hard now, jaw tight. They made us work in dark tunnels, Zara continued. Cleaning engines, carrying metal. Sometimes they gave us moldy food. Other days, nothing. She wrapped her arms around herself. My little sister died in the mines. No one cared. Tom placed a hand over hers. I care. Zara blinked fast, fighting tears. You don't even know me. I know enough, he said. I know you're brave. I know you survived. I know you're still kind, even after everything. Zara looked away. Her chest ached, but not from pain. It was something new. Something warm. She had never expected this from a human. She had never expected kindness. That night, they reached the edge of an old station, half buried in sand and rock. It had once been a shelter for war refugees, built by humans and aliens who believed in peace. Now it was quiet. Forgotten. Perfect. Tom checked the solar panel on the roof. Still working. He opened the metal door, and they stepped inside. Dust floated in the air. Empty bunks. Broken machines. A few sealed water packs still on the shelf. Zahra sat on one of the beds and let out a deep breath. This feels safe. Tom nodded. It is. They made a fire in a small stove and warmed their hands. Zara took out the small cloth pouch she always carried. Inside it was a single button. It belonged to my mother, she said. She gave it to me before they took her. She looked at Tom. I want you to have it. Tom shook his head gently. That's yours. She reached forward and placed it in his hand. You gave me food. You gave me shelter. But more than that, you gave me something I thought I lost. What's that? He asked. She smiled softly. Trust. They sat in silence for a while, the fire crackling beside them. Then Tom said, I never believed in second chances. Not for me. But then you came along. Zara tilted her head. You think I saved you? I know you did, he said. I saved your life, she said. But you saved something else. What's that? She placed her hand over his heart. This. Outside. The stars shone brighter than they had in years. Inside, an alien girl and a human man sat together, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as two souls who had been broken by war and healed by kindness. A gift of trust. Morning came with soft light pouring into the shelter. Tom was already awake, fixing the door panel. Zara sat nearby, sipping warm tea he had made from dried leaves. The air smelled of metal and earth, but it felt peaceful. The first time in a long while, Zara smiled without fear. Tom checked the security system. He had found a working camera, placed it outside, and connected it to a small screen. No movement, no signals, no scouts. They were safe for now. Zara stood and stretched. She looked around the room. It wasn't perfect. Walls were cracked. The floor creaked, but it felt like home. She reached into her bag and pulled out a tiny bundle wrapped in old cloth. Tom looked up. "What's that?" he asked gently. She walked over and unwrapped it. Inside was a necklace made from tiny, carved bones and thin metal strands. "My mother made this before the soldiers came," Zara said. "She told me it meant life. That as long as I had it. I wasn't alone. She held it out. I want you to have it." Tom's eyes widened. "Zara, this is from your mother." "I know," she said, "but now it means something more." He took the necklace with great care, as if it was made of glass. He held it tightly. "I'll protect it. Always." Zara smiled. "That's why I gave it to you." Later that day, they worked together to fix the food generator. Tom taught Zara how to check the battery levels and clean the vents. She learned fast, her hands steady, her eyes focused. "You're good at this," Tom said. Zahra looked at him. "Because you showed me how." He laughed. "No, you already had it in you." That night, they sat outside on a flat rock, watching the stars. Zara pointed at a bright cluster. "My home world is somewhere near that light," she whispered. Tom looked at her. "Do you want to go back?" Zara thought for a while, then shook her head. "I don't know if it still exists." She looked down. "But maybe I can build a new one. Here." Tom smiled. "I'd help you." Zara glanced at him. "Why do you keep helping me?" He paused, then said, "Because you never gave up. You were beaten, starved, chased, but you're still standing." He placed a hand over his heart. "You remind me what being human should mean." Their moment was soft. Peaceful. But peace never stays long. The next morning, the camera screen blinked red. Motion detected. Tom checked the feed. A single scout drone. Scanning. Searching. It hadn't seen them yet, but it would. Zara stood behind him, fists clenched. "They found us again." Tom nodded. "We need to be ready." They packed supplies quickly: food, water, tools. Tom gave Zara a small shot pulse device. "If they come too close, use this. It will buy us time." Zara nodded, but her eyes were different now. She wasn't the scared girl from the market anymore. She was stronger. Fierce. Alive. Before they left, Zara placed something on the bed. It was a drawing scratched into old paper with a burnt stick. 2 figures standing side by side. One tall, one small. One human. One alien, both holding hands under the stars. Tom looked at it. "You drew this?" Zara nodded. "If we don't return, someone should know we were here." Tom folded the paper and placed it in a tin box, hiding it under the floor. "We'll come back," he said. "This is our place." Zara looked around one last time. She touched the wall, then followed him into the rising sun. Bond had been sealed. Not with blood, not with force, but with trust. And that was more powerful than any weapon. Asterisk, they called her worthless. But he knew better. Asterisk. The desert wind howled as Zara and Tom moved through the canyon, dust swirling around their boots. The drone was close now. Too close. Tom stopped beside a rocky wall and opened a hidden box under a slab. Inside were wires, batteries, and one last EMP device. "This will knock the drone out," he said, quickly connecting the wires. Zara stood beside him, holding a small weapon. Her eyes scanned the sky. There it was, a silver shadow gliding low. Searching. Tom activated the EMP. A sharp pulse fired into the air. The drone blinked, then sparked and crashed into the rocks behind them. But it was too late. It had already Sent the signal. Tom's screen flashed red. Inbound signal. Troops arriving in 2 hours. Zara looked at him. They won't stop. Tom nodded. Then we don't hide. They returned to the shelter. But they weren't running anymore. They were defending. Tom reinforced the doors. Zara set up traps. Together, they powered up the solar panels and activated the defense grid. She had become more than a survivor now. She was ready to fight. That night, they waited in silence. Then dash sound. Boots. Engines. Voices. The soldiers came, surrounding the shelter. A loudspeaker echoed. This is Commander Brax. Surrender the alien female, and you will be spared. Tom stepped outside alone. I will not. Hand her over. The soldiers raised their weapons. She's worthless, the commander growled. A slave girl, a stray. Tom's voice was calm, steady. She's not worthless. He pointed back at the shelter. She fixed machines you can't even understand. She survived things you couldn't endure. She is more human than any of you. Brax laughed. You're a fool. Tom shrugged. Maybe, but I'd rather be a fool than a coward who hunts the innocent. The commander raised his weapon. Kill him. Before they could shoot, Zara stepped out. She was holding the shock pulse device, but instead of aiming it at them, she aimed it at the sky. A flare burst upward, flashing bright blue. Moments later, a signal buzzed through every helmet. Cease fire immediately. The soldiers stopped. Confused. Then another voice came through the commander's comms. This is Central Command. Stand down. That girl is under our protection now. Brax's face went pale. But she's a fugitive. She's a witness, and your actions are under review. Return to base, now. The soldiers looked at each other. Then slowly, they backed away. One by one, they left. No shots fired. No blood spilled. Just silence. And Zara, standing tall. When they were gone, Tom looked at her in shock. What did you do? Zara smiled. I sent a message yesterday to a rebel network. The one that's collecting proof of war crimes. She held up a small disc. They replied, and they were watching. Tom laughed with joy. You brilliant, fearless girl. Zara smiled. You taught me that. Weeks passed. Zara's story spread across systems. News channels showed her picture. Not as a slave, not as a number, but as a voice, a survivor, a fighter. Tom stood by her side during interviews, not speaking much, just proud. One day, while walking past the same market where they had first met, Zara stopped. People stared at her. But not with hate, with respect. One child stepped forward and handed her a small flower. For being brave, the child said. Zara knelt, smiling. She placed the flower in her hair. Tom watched from behind, his heart full. Later, Zara turned to him and said, They called me worthless. Tom nodded. But you knew better, she said softly. He smiled. I always did. And so, the girl who had nothing found not just a home, but a purpose. And the man who had lost hope found it again in her. Together, they proved something powerful. Kindness is strength. Love is survival. And no one, not even the most broken soul, is ever truly worthless.